It is, it's incredibly late right now.
Yeah, it really is. The whole world is asleep.
Exactly. The rest of the world has completely quieted down. I
Yeah.
mean, the traffic outside has finally faded away. The emails have stopped pinging. It's just that, that low, steady hum of the refrigerator in the background.
The best time to really think about this stuff.
Right. And we're sitting here at this table under this one lamp, looking at a stack of notes that outline something, well, something genuinely historic. It's just the three of us right now, you, listening, and us.
Just us and the notes.
Yeah. And we are looking at something that feels less like a typical sports event and more like, I don't know, an impending collision. The World Cup final, Argentina versus Spain, Sunday, MetLife Stadium.
It is a profoundly quiet moment right now. It's the calm before the storm, really, which feels like exactly the right atmosphere to look at this.
It does.
Because when you strip away the crowd noise, the media frenzy, and just the sheer spectacle of a Sunday final in New York, you are left with the raw data, the tactical shifts, the distinct paths these two teams took to get here.
The actual roadmap.
Right. And looking at these notes, the thing that stands out, the thing that keeps you turning these pages over and over, is the sheer unbending certainty of the footballing world.
The certainty is the whole puzzle here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have been reading through the tactical blogs, the broadsheets, the former player columns.
Everyone has an opinion this week.
Every single pundit and analyst has weighed in,
Mm-hmm.
and they all sound completely convinced that they know how the mechanics of this final will play out.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the hook, the thing that makes you want to really dig deeper. The predictions are split exactly down the middle, 50-50.
Which is incredibly rare for a final of this magnitude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Half the analysts are saying, mechanically, Argentina has the undeniable edge. And then the other half are saying, structurally, Spain cannot be broken.
What's fascinating here is that both of those cases, when you read them in isolation, they were logically sound.
Completely bulletproof.
Right. They aren't relying on different sets of facts or just ignoring the reality of the tournament. Both sides of this tactical debate are building their cases on the exact same sequence of events we've all witnessed over the last month.
It's like a Rorschach test.
It really is. It is a fascinating mirror maze of logic. The same data point, say Spain's possession numbers or Argentina's late goals, it simultaneously proves to one person that Argentina is a team of destiny and to another that Spain is an unstoppable machine.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to you to actually break this down without the shouting matches you see on daytime television.
No hot takes here.
No hot takes, no gut feelings, no, I just have a feeling about Messi or Spain just looks better. We are going to take the blueprint of this deep dive directly from the tactics board and the roads they traveled.
Step by step.
Yeah. We're going to walk down the exact path Argentina took to get to MetLife Stadium. Then we're going to walk down the exact path Spain took. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at the tactical collision waiting in the midfield. And we're going to look at the history hanging over this pitch.
There is a lot of history.
So pull up a chair. Let's figure out why this match feels like it has been written in the stars.
We need to dissect the illusion of perfection, I think. And we should probably start with Argentina.
Let's do it.
Because when you look at the raw numbers on paper, the headline is pretty intimidating. It is a 6-for-6 run, 6 matches played, 6 matches won.
On paper, it looks like a juggernaut.
Yeah.
I mean, you see an undefeated run, and you naturally assume they've just been dismantling teams from minute one.
Right, sweeping everyone aside.
Yeah, it started in Group J. They played Algeria, Austria, and Jordan, and they walked away with maximum points. But it wasn't just the points, right? It was how the narrative of the tournament was instantly set in that very first game against Algeria.
The opening statement is always crucial in a World Cup. It dictates how opponents prepare for you mentally.
Oh, absolutely.
And Argentina arrived with a milestone that forced every defensive coordinator in the tournament to basically tear up their initial scouting reports.
Messi. I mean, in that opening game against Algeria, he gets a hat trick.
A historic one.
And not just any hat trick, the very first World Cup hat trick of his entire career.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
With those 3 goals, he instantly becomes the tournament's all-time leading scorer. And he does this at 39 years old.
39.
Let's talk about the mechanics of that for a second.
Yeah.
Because a 39-year-old shouldn't physically be able to do that against a modern, high-pressing international defense.
No, they really shouldn't. And that is where the tactical brilliance of his twilight years comes in. A 25-year-old Messi, he scored by taking on 4 defenders at a dead sprint.
Just pure electricity.
Exactly. But the 39-year-old Messi, he scores through an extreme, almost ruthless economy of movement.
Economy of movement. I like that.
If you watch the aerial footage of that Algeria game, he spends vast portions of the match simply walking.
Just scrolling around the center circle.
Right. But he is walking in very specific areas. He's constantly scanning, mapping the blind spots of the Algerian defensive midfielders. He lets the game flow around him, just waiting for the opponent's defensive block to shift slightly out of phase.
Like a predator.
Very much so. And when that tiny pocket of space opens, usually in the half space between the center back and the fullback, he exploits it with a 2-yard sprint, not a 40-yard dash. It is a triumph of spatial awareness over raw athleticism.
It creates this immense aura. I mean, watching a player manipulate space like that, it casts a spell over the audience and, frankly, over the media.
It hypnotizes people.
It really does. It created this immediate narrative of a quote-unquote perfect Argentine campaign where the maestro was in total control.
But that was just the group stage.
Exactly. Reading through the rest of the notes, the minute the group stage ended, that illusion of a smooth, majestic march to the final completely shattered. The group stage was a mirage.
Completely. The knockout rounds revealed a deeply, deeply vulnerable team.
Yeah.
When we look at the tactical flow of those matches, Argentina stopped being a well-oiled machine and turned into a team living in a state of constant, desperate problem-solving.
Let's trace that road, because it is bumpy. Round of 32 against Cape Verde, you expect a comfortable win, right?
Like a procession, really.
But instead, it's a 3-2 thriller, where Argentina is literally clinging to a 1-goal lead for the final 20 minutes.
Sweating it out.
Sweating it out. Then round of 16 against Egypt, they go down early and have to stage this grueling comeback against a really deep defensive block.
Which is never easy.
No. Quarterfinal against Switzerland goes to extra time. They're pushed to the absolute physical limit, dragging tired legs through an extra 30 minutes just to survive.
And we really have to look at why they were struggling.
Let's get into it.
In that Cape Verde match, the source notes detail how Cape Verde's manager brilliantly exploited Argentina's narrow midfield.
Right.
Argentina plays very compact in the center, right, to facilitate quick, short passing. Cape Verde countered this by stretching their wingbacks all the way out to the touchlines, staying incredibly wide.
Giving them the whole pitch.
Exactly. So when Argentina lost the ball, Cape Verde immediately hit these wide diagonal switches of play, entirely bypassing Argentina's congested midfield counterpress.
Bypassing the trap altogether.
Right. It exposed the Argentine fullbacks to constant 2-on-1 situations, which is exactly where those 2 goals came from.
Wow. And then came the semifinal against England. This match, for me, defines the entire Argentine experience at this tournament.
It was pure chaos.
Pure chaos. They're down 1-0, 4 minutes left in normal time, 4 minutes from elimination.
Legs packed.
Basically on the plane home. And they score twice to win 2-1, which leads to this defining statistic. Going into the final, Argentina had scored 10 goals after the 75th minute of matches.
10 goals.
10 goals in the dying moments. Right. They treat the last 15 minutes of a football match like it is their own personal playground.
It is a staggering statistical anomaly for a team at this level to be that heavily weighted toward the end of matches.
But let me bring an analogy into this, because this stat worries me if I'm an Argentina fan.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about a heavyweight boxer who keeps winning fights by 12th round knockout, but he loses the first 11 rounds on the judges' scorecards.
Was getting battered for 30 minutes.
Right. Sure, the knockout punch is spectacular, and it makes for great television. But if you rely on finding that magical fight-ending punch in the final 3 minutes of every single bout, aren't you just asking to eventually face a fighter who simply ducks?
That's a great point.
I mean, is this late-game scoring actually a tactical superpower, or is it just a glaring symptom of a system that fails for the first 75 minutes?
That is the dividing line in the tactical community right now. It's the leaky roof versus the relentless engine debate.
Leaky roof, yeah.
You can look at the underlying numbers, the high volume of expected goals they allowed against Cape Verde, the structural failure against England's transitions, and conclude that this is a fundamentally flawed team. A structurally dominant team controls the game state. They take a lead, they choke out the opponent's possession, and they lower the variance of the match. Relying on an 86th minute equalizer is high-variance football. It is statistically dangerous.
Flipping a coin with a loaded gun.
That's exactly what it is. However, There is a counter-argument here, and it's rooted deeply in the psychology and the conditioning of this specific squad.
Okay.
When a team has been structurally compromised 5 separate times in a single tournament, when they have been trailing or tied late against Cape Verde, Egypt, Switzerland, and England, and they have found the solution every single time, a unique physiological and psychological adaptation occurs.
Oh, so what happens to them?
It alters their baseline panic response.
Oh,
Right. In the 80th minute, when a normal team trailing by a goal starts to rush their passes, abandoning their tactical shape out of desperation, Argentina's heart rate actually drops.
they get calmer.
They recognize the game state. They don't resort to hopeful long balls. They continue to play complex passing combinations inside the opponent's penalty area because they have normalized the pressure.
That is terrifying.
They don't just win football matches, they win street fights. They
Whoa.
drag you into the alley in the final 10 minutes, and they operate in that alley with surgical precision because they've lived there for the last month.
They win street fights.
Yeah.
That is such a vivid way to look at it.
Yeah.
They don't panic when the tactical plan falls apart. They thrive in the wreckage.
Exactly.
Which honestly makes the pivot to our next section so jarring.
Mm.
Because if Argentina is a team that thrives in a late-night street brawl, Spain is a team that refuses to even walk down the alley.
They wouldn't be caught dead in the alley.
No. Spain is a suffocating symphony in a brightly lit, climate-controlled concert hall. They are the antithesis of Argentina in almost every conceivable way.
Control is the operative word for Spain. If Argentina's path was marked by high-variance emotional spikes, Spain's path has been an exercise in clinical, surgical risk management.
So clinical.
And that identity is built squarely on their defense.
I want to talk about this defense because there is a fascinating media narrative swirling around it. If you turn on any sports broadcast this week, the chyron at the bottom of the screen says, Spain's impenetrable defense, only 1 goal allowed in 7 matches.
You see it everywhere.
Everywhere. It has become accepted as gospel. But when you look at the actual source notes and the breakdown of their knockout run, the media narrative and the reality of the tournament are completely detached.
The contradiction between the myth and the math?
Yes, the myth and the math. The media keeps repeating this 1 goal allowed headline. But wait a minute, you look at the actual games. In the round of 16, they played Mexico and won 3-2.
2 goals conceded.
That's 2 goals conceded. In the quarterfinal, they played Belgium and won 2-1.
Another goal conceded.
That's another goal conceded. Mathematically, they have conceded at least 3 goals. Yet the collective consciousness of the footballing world has somehow agreed to just edit out the Mexico and Belgium goals to serve the narrative of an invincible Spanish wall.
It's amazing. It speaks to how human beings consume sports and build myths in real time.
We just ignore the facts we don't like.
Well, we're looking at a team whose method of defending is so visually overwhelming that it literally warps our perception of the data.
Right.
To understand why people forget those goals, you have to look at how Spain defends. They don't defend by placing 10 men inside their own penalty box and just blocking shots.
Parking the bus.
They don't park the bus. They defend by monopolizing the football.
The concept of possession is defense.
Exactly. Think about their group stage. A 0-0 draw against Cape Verde, a 4-0 win over Saudi Arabia, a 1-0 win over Uruguay, a shutout against DR Congo,
Clean sheet after clean sheet.
and the crown jewel, shutting down France, the #1 ranked team coming into the tournament in a 2-0 victory.
That was a masterclass.
In that France game, Spain maintained a staggeringly high defensive line. They employed a highly coordinated counterpress. The second they lost the ball in the French half, 3 Spanish players would instantly swarm the ball carrier,
Like hornets.
cutting off all forward passing lanes to the French forwards. France couldn't counterattack because they literally couldn't make the first pass out of their own third.
They practically asphyxiated them.
Because of that terrifying level of structural control, the collective memory simply dismisses the anomalies.
Oh, I see.
The struggles against Mexico, the goal conceded to Belgium, they are treated as minor clerical errors. Strange deflections or set-piece flukes that don't represent the true Spain.
Just a glitch in the matrix.
Right. The narrative of an impenetrable defense feels truer to the aesthetic experience of watching Spain play than the actual mathematics do.
But let's look at that Belgium match closely, because for my money, what happened against Belgium is far more intimidating than the shutouts.
Interesting. Why is that?
Belgium actually managed to punch them in the mouth. Belgium broke the press, got in behind, and scored against this mythical system. If you are an Argentina fan studying that tape, you might briefly feel a surge of hope, like, look, the machine bleeds.
They are mortal.
But here's where it gets really interesting. It's what Spain did after they bled that is terrifying.
The systemic response.
Right. They didn't have a team meeting on the pitch. The captain didn't start screaming. The manager simply went to his bench and brought on Mikel Merino.
Just a calm substitution.
And Merino comes into the midfield, completely changes the tempo of the game, and calmly scores the winner to make it 2-1. Spain's bench doesn't just rest tired legs. It actively absorbs the opponent's momentum and returns fire.
That is the hallmark of a deeply embedded tactical system. They are not reliant on an emotional savior or, a sudden surge of adrenaline.
No panic.
When a part of the system is stressed, a substitute slots into the machinery and recalibrates the balance. Marino is a perfect example. He isn't a vertical attacking threat who is going to run in behind the defense.
He's not a sprinter.
He is a tempo setter. Bringing him on when you've just conceded a goal is a deliberate managerial choice to kill the game's momentum.
Wow.
He comes on, completes 40 short passes in a row, the crowd goes quiet, the opponent's adrenaline spike just fades away, and suddenly Spain is back in control.
Which brings us down from the grand narratives and right onto the grass. This is the heart of the deep dive right here.
To tactical reality.
Yeah. The headlines want to focus on the romance. Messi's final dance, the young Spanish wingers. But the actual final on Sunday is going to be decided by a deeply technical, almost invisible war in the center of the pitch.
It is the battle that dictates the terms of engagement. It is the fight for the midfield.
The boring battle that decides everything. Let's break down the mechanics of this. Because Spain operates with roughly 70% possession.
70%.
70%.
Yeah.
That means the opponent spends 63 minutes of a 90-minute match just chasing the ball. And you pointed this out in our notes, and it fundamentally changed how I view this matchup.
Oh, about the transition.
Yeah. Spain's possession doesn't just dictate their own offense, it systematically deletes Argentina's greatest weapon.
If we look closely at Argentina's attacking structure, their most dangerous sequences don't come from long, sustained periods of passing.
Not at all.
Their magic relies on attacking transitions. They need the opponent to push forward, leave space behind, and make a mistake. They need a loose ball or a misplaced pass so they can break quickly into unstructured space before the defense can set up.
They need the game to be a little bit broken.
Precisely. But you cannot have an attacking transition if the opponent never gives you the ball in a dangerous area.
Right.
Spain's 70% possession is built on something called rest defense.
Rest defense, explain that.
When Spain has the ball in the attacking third, their center backs and defensive midfielder position themselves very specifically, often in a 2-3 shape, to ensure that if they do lose the ball, they already have a numerical advantage in the exact zones Argentina wants to counterattack through.
So they're defending while they're attacking.
Exactly. Spain mathematically eliminates the space required for chaos. And to your point about Argentina's late-game heroics, you cannot conjure a 90th minute miracle. You cannot summon that street fight energy if you have spent the previous 88 minutes endlessly shifting side to side.
You'd be exhausted.
Exhausted, unable to string 3 passes together. Spain tires your mind and your legs until you physically cannot execute the miracle.
Okay, the logic is sound. It makes Spain sound invincible. But let me pause you there and push back on this.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a massive trap hidden inside that 70% possession.
So trap.
Yeah. What if having the ball for that long is actually a sedative for Spain?
A sedative.
Yes. Think about the psychology of safety. Spain is comfortable. They are playing their beautiful, rhythmic, two-touch passing sequences. They suffocated France. Nobody laid a finger on them. They feel completely safe inside their system.
Mm-hmm.
But when you feel safe for 80 minutes, you forget what danger feels like. You lose that edge. They haven't faced real, unhinged, desperate chaos in this tournament.
That's very true.
Now imagine it's the 85th minute. The score is 0-0. Spain has passed the ball 800 times. And suddenly, Messi, who has been quietly walking around the center circle, seemingly completely uninvolved in the match, flips a switch.
Cheat ambush.
Exactly. He finds a half yard of space, receives a vertical pass on the half turn, and the game instantly shatters. Spain, lulled to sleep by their own perfection, is violently dragged into a street fight. They have absolutely zero muscle memory for surviving.
That is the structural nightmare for Spain's manager, and it highlights the genius of Lionel Messi's tactical evolution within this single month.
It's incredible.
You noted him walking around seemingly uninvolved, and that is a crucial observation. Our source notes detail a profound positional shift. He started the tournament operating very high up the pitch as a pure finisher,
Right, scoring 5 goals early on.
including the hat-trick against a high defensive line. But in the last 5 games, as opponents started dropping deeper, he has only scored 3 times. He recognized the tactical landscape shifting and actively morphed his identity mid-tournament.
He went from being the tip of the spear to being the guy holding the spear.
He transitioned into a false 9, or almost a traditional number 10. He drops deep into his own midfield to receive the ball.
Which makes him a shapeshifter. I mean, if you are a Spanish center back, how do you even program your brain to defend that?
You can't really.
You spend all week in the film room watching tape of a guy making runs into the box to finish crosses, and then you step onto the grass on Sunday, and he's suddenly 50 yards away from goal, picking you apart with diagonal passes to the wingers.
It creates devastating cognitive dissonance for a defensive unit.
Cognitive dissonance, yeah.
Spain's defensive philosophy relies on maintaining a rigid, compact block. But when Messi drops into the midfield, between Spain's midfield line and their defensive line, he occupies the most dangerous zone on the pitch.
The space between the lines.
Right. The instinct for a Spanish center back, say, Laporte, is to step out of the defensive line to aggressively close Messi down before he can turn.
Because you can't let him turn.
Exactly. But the moment Laporte abandons his position, he leaves a gaping hole in the defensive structure. And Argentina's wingers, players like Julian Alvarez, are specifically instructed to make violent diagonal sprints into the exact space the center back just vacated.
So it's a trap.
It is. If Spain presses Messi, they get killed by the ball over the top. If they don't press Messi, he turns and dictates the game. It is a tactical dilemma that fundamentally threatens Spain's desire for control.
It is a terrifying proposition. And this brings us to the hidden variables, the undercurrents of the game that you don't see on a chalkboard but will absolutely dictate the final 20 minutes at MetLife Stadium.
The human element.
Exactly. We have to talk about the physical reality of what these 22 human beings have endured to get here. Because the paths they took weren't just stylistically different. They required entirely different biological tolls. We need to talk about fatigue.
The physical toll is the silent, unseen dictator of World Cup finals. Think back to the roads they traveled and the accumulation of minutes. Argentina has been dragged into deep waters repeatedly.
Over and over.
They played extra time against Switzerland.
Which is an extra 30 minutes of brutal high-stakes exertion. I mean, it's not just running. It's sprinting under immense cognitive load where lactic acid is flooding the muscles and every change of direction feels like moving through wet cement.
And then they follow that up with the emotional and physical war against England.
Expending massive amounts of energy pressing late in the game just to secure that comeback.
While Spain, by contrast, has largely managed their physical expenditure through their possession.
Because the ball doesn't get tired.
Exactly. When you hold the ball for 70% of the match, you dictate the running. The ball does the work. Their 2-0 win against France was essentially a high-intensity rondo. Spain's legs are mathematically guaranteed to be significantly fresher coming into Sunday.
Which loops back to our earlier point about Argentina relying on late-game kills. Argentina's entire identity requires them to be sharpest, fastest, and most clinical in the 85th minute.
Right.
But what happens when the tactical intention is there, but the hamstring literally cannot make the run? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. What happens when the physical fatigue betrays Argentina right at the moment they rely on to win games?
That is the biological reality Spain will try to exploit. They will try to stretch the pitch, make Argentina chase, and wait for the structural gaps to appear when exhausted Argentine midfielders simply stop trekking runners in the 70th minute.
Just wait for them to collapse.
But if we swing the pendulum back, if Spain's control isn't enough to find a breakthrough, we encounter a hidden variable that violently swings the advantage back to Argentina.
Let's say we grind through 90 minutes. It's 0-0. We drag through the 120 minutes of extra time. Both teams are running on fumes. And we arrive at the ultimate crucible of the sport, the penalty shootout.
If it goes to penalties, a profound psychological shadow descends over the Spanish squad. And that shadow is cast by Emiliano Dibu Martinez.
Oh, man. Let's break down why he is so terrifying. Because it's not just that he's a good shot stopper. The guy is a psychological warfare specialist.
Absolutely. The source notes remind us that Martinez essentially won Argentina the 2022 World Cup title in a shootout through his manipulation of the environment.
He weaponizes the penalty box.
We have to look at the mechanics of what he actually does, because it is highly calculated. When a player walks up to take a penalty, they rely on routine. They place the ball, they take their steps back, they wait for the whistle.
It's all about rhythm. Their heart rate is controlled by that sequence.
Exactly. And Martinez systematically dismantles that rhythm. He will walk out, take the ball himself, and force the referee to intervene.
I've seen him do it.
He will point at the penalty spot, claiming the ball isn't placed correctly, breaking the taker's visual concentration. He delays the whistle. By the time the taker actually starts their run-up, their meticulously managed heart rate has dropped, spiked, and dropped again.
It is physiological sabotage.
It really is. He isolates the taker and makes the goal look infinitesimally small. If Spain allows this match to remain tied after 120 minutes, they are willingly walking into an environment engineered for their own failure.
Which creates an agonizing strategic catch-22 for Spain's manager. They want to control the game and limit risk, right?
Right.
But if they control it too much, if they play possession football so safely that they fail to score, they're methodically escorting themselves right into Argentina's haunted house.
Delivering themselves to the executioner.
Exactly. They were delivering the game to the exact scenario where Argentina feels invincible. So Spain almost has to risk their perfect defensive structure. They have to push more players forward and expose themselves to Messi's transitions just to try and kill the game in normal time to avoid Martinez. It is brilliant.
It's a fascinating dilemma. And hovering above all of these tactical calculations, the possession stats, the fatigue models, is a narrative weight that makes this final feel entirely predetermined.
The history.
The history between these two footballing giants, or, more accurately, the bizarre, almost unsettling lack of history.
This is the part of the notes that actually gave me goosebumps. You have Argentina and Spain.
Yeah.
Two foundational pillars of world football. You naturally assume they have played out epic, blood-soaked chapters of history against each other on this stage.
You'd think they've met 5 or 6 times in knockouts.
But they haven't. They have virtually no shared history at the World Cup.
They have met exactly one time at a World Cup tournament.
Once. In 1966, 60 years ago,
Mm.
Argentina won 2-1 in the group stage.
Yeah.
And that's it. That is the entirety of their shared World Cup history.
It's eerie.
It is like two massive gravitational bodies orbiting the same sun that have somehow never crossed paths in a century.
And the sport itself has been trying to force this collision for months. The notes highlight the canceled finalissima that was scheduled back in March.
Sure, I remember that.
The reigning champions of South America against the reigning champions of Europe. It was billed as the ultimate modern showdown, but it was abruptly called off due to logistical and security issues.
Just logistical red tape.
It was a duel the world was promised and then denied.
Until right now. It is almost as if the mechanics of fate decided that a friendly match in March wasn't a grand enough stage for this. The tension had to build. The stakes had to be raised to the absolute maximum limit.
The ultimate stage.
But the finalissima connection isn't even the most poetic detail in these notes. Let's lower our voices for a second here, because this piece of history, this is the stuff that transcends the sport.
The photo.
The 2007 charity photo.
It has become the defining image of the tournament. A photograph taken almost 2 decades ago in a locker room in Barcelona.
It is a 20-year-old Lionel Messi. He still has the floppy hair. He's just beginning to realize his own impossible potential, doing a routine charity calendar shoot. And in his arms, in a small plastic tub, he is holding a baby.
It's surreal.
He is literally baiting an infant for the camera.
Yeah.
And that baby is Yamal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of what is happening on Sunday, the sheer statistical improbability of that image is staggering.
It breaks your brain.
Messi is now 39, utilizing every ounce of his tactical intellect to rage against the dying of the light, trying to secure one final, impossible triumph before he steps away forever. Lamine Yamal is 19, a prodigy who has electrified this tournament with his pace and vision, stepping onto the grandest stage in sports for the very first time.
Think about the mechanics of that matchup. You have the greatest player of his generation, perhaps of all time, facing a teenager who plays with the exact same joyful, fearless verticality that Messi had at 20.
A mirror image across time.
Yamal has the opportunity to become a world champion, to announce his era by defeating the very man who held him when he was months old. You couldn't write that into a script.
A studio executive would throw it out for being too heavy-handed.
They really would.
Yeah.
But it's reality. That is no longer just a tactical battle between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1.
Yep.
That is the literal past and the literal future of the sport standing on the exact same patch of grass at MetLife Stadium, staring each other down.
It fundamentally elevates the event. It shifts it from a complex sporting contest into a profound human drama about time, legacy, and the passing of torches.
Right.
And this ultimately is why the predictions are so fractured. Because when you stack all of this up, the tactical dissonance, the lactic acid in the legs, the psychological warfare of penalty shootouts, the staggering poetry of Messi and Yamal, you realize that both conclusions are deeply, satisfyingly logical.
We started this hour talking about the maddening certainty of the pundits. And sitting here now, in the quiet, having unpacked the mechanics of Spain's possession, having looked at the street fight mentality of Argentina, having walked down both roads, I am officially surrendering my need to predict a winner.
It's impossible.
Because the same facts brilliantly validate both endings. If Spain wins, we will look back at their structural data and say, of course, their rest defense was historically great, they mathematically starved Argentina the ball, and the clinical mechanics of their system function flawlessly.
It will look inevitable in hindsight.
Exactly. And if Argentina wins, we will look at the exact same tournament and say, of course. They were a team of destiny, surviving chaos, propelled by the tactical shape-shifting of Messi's last ride and the psychological dominance of Dibu Martinez.
Predicting a winner requires you to willfully ignore half of the truth. We have to accept the beautiful, terrifying ambiguity of this matchup. It is a pure clash of sporting philosophies.
Chaos versus control.
It is meticulous control against weaponized chaos. It is a team that wants to carefully construct a flawless, impenetrable symphony against a team that wants to smash the instruments, drag you into the orchestra pit, and start a brawl.
The symphony versus the brawl.
Yep.
And the winner is just going to be whoever manages to dictate the music in those opening 20 minutes.
Precisely.
If you see Spain completing 50 passes in a row, the symphony is playing. If you see the game breaking down into fouls, transition sprints, and loose balls, the brawl has begun.
That is exactly how to view it. So my advice to anyone listening as we prepare for Sunday night in New York is to let go of the anxiety of the outcome.
Yeah, just breathe.
Don't watch this match desperately hoping your tactical prediction holds up. Watch the off-the-ball movement. Watch where Messi stands when Spain has the ball. Watch how high Spain's center backs push up the pitch.
Watch the details.
Feel every single second of not knowing how it ends. Appreciate the sheer weight of the history that is unfolding mechanically and romantically in real time in front of you.
Feel every second of not knowing. I love that. It is so rare in life, let alone in sports, that we get to genuinely not know how a monumental story ends.
Very rare.
As we wrap up this deep dive, sitting here in the quiet, staring at these notes one last time, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder in the dark before you go to sleep. When the final whistle eventually blows on Sunday night, the confetti is falling from the rafters of MetLife, and one team is collapsing in tears of joy while the other is staring blankly at the grass. Will we look at the victor and realize that football is ultimately a game governed by the cold, flawless tactical mechanics of the present? Or will we realize that all the tactical boards in the world never mattered at all, and that this game is, and always has been, entirely dictated by the stubborn romantic ghosts of the past? Think about that. Good night, everyone.